Hello, Annetta and Marion. Welcome back to Reasonably Spontaneous Conversation.
Dennis, hello. I'm so happy to be back with you. It's been way too long, and I always love catching up and talking about all the things we love about our business.
In our business, and speaking of that, you have gotten yourself, is this a long-time interest in the true crime genre?
Oh my goodness. I've been interested in true crime forever. I mean, it's so perfectly dovetails into my I'm fascinated by human behavior and why people do what they do and why bad people do good things and good people do bad things and all the complications in between. So that's just, that's what drives my interest in storytelling, why people would do what they do. And true crime, of course, is a perhaps unfortunately or unfortunately, there's a deep reservoir of stories. So, I've been interested in true crime for a long time, but that's like a subset of just my larger fascination with. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I don't know how to turn this off.
We all have notifications. We get notified all the time because we need to be able to keep up with what's going on.
I had to switch browsers, and now this browser is quiet. Sorry.
Yes. Can you imagine even saying, a few years ago, I have to switch browsers in order to get this? I mean, this is such an amazing technological time.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, and we'll only get crazier.
Oh, and that's one thing that we can be sure of as we're going. I had a friend of mine who was a judge, and he was talking about when he sentences people, he really sits down and tries to remember that he is sentencing them for something that happened on their worst day. And this is the difficulty. You're seeing people, and these true crime stories are happening when there is a nexus of different people and different events that ends up happening that changes their lives.
Mm-hmm. I'm so glad that you said that, because that's one of the reasons that I'm so interested in true crime, because I think out of the gate, people will expect their stories to be exploited and the salacious details and all of that stuff. But I like to talk about people's worst day of their lives, probably, or one of them at least. But there's a way to do it with empathy and with kindness, and with, being helpful, not just exploited, just not exploiting people and their stories and what happened. And that's one of the reasons that, and that's complicated and can go either way very easily. And that's what I like. I like that it's complicated. I like that there are, important choices to be made in terms of the storytelling when you're talking about true crime, because it happened to real people, and real people are complicated, and there's families and all of that. And that's why I love it, because I also love to very strongly make the choice of leading with empathy.
Yes.
And also focusing on the victims and their families, not the perpetrator, because there's a lot of true crime can be perpetrator oriented with all, again, the salacious details and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, yes. I mean, you might have to touch on that to explain the story, but I like to focus on the victims, their families, and through the, it's empathy.
And through the lens. Well, let's take a look at your first part of your reel that we want to do, so you can get a chance to tell us a little bit about some of the work that you filmed.
Thank you.
As soon as I got dressed and went to the door, the reporters bum rushed me and started asking me all these questions. how does it feel to live with a murderer?
He knew that I love music, and he bought me a little keyboard for me to play on. We would go over to his apartment. He would cook, we would laugh. They were separated for a while. She thought that she could make everything okay by just moving out. She didn't think that he would continue to just turn up the heat on her. I remember my mother was going to a Christmas party. I remember she kissed me and she said, "I love you, baby, and I'll be back." She never came home that night. I had to go through Christmas a few weeks later without my mother.
That silhouette in the hallway breaks my heart.
Thank you. And as it should. I mean, it's a terrible thing for a young girl to lose her mom anytime, but especially like before the holidays. I mean, the holidays are always so much harder for everybody and everything. So that story, the story, the Christmas story is a story from a show called Lies That Bind. And it was just really important to give voice to the daughter, to talk about the pain and, you know, the impact on a young life with such an important person gone. So not just about the crime and, you know, all, you know, the guns and all that, but the impact of behavior on innocent people.
I love that. Whenever I read crime stories and I get into some of the work, I do not like spending the entire time in the mind of the killer or in the mind of that person. That doesn't interest me anywhere near in the same way that you're seeing and you're showing through your filming.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, that's where my interest lies too. You know, again, you have to look at the whole story and with all its complexities and, you know,
which is all the complexities. There is no straight story. There are so many twists and turns in human behavior that we have to be able to do it if you're going to understand.
And that's what makes us human, our interest in other humans. You know, I mean, we're natural storytellers. We naturally communicate through story. We naturally learn through story. I mean, there's, you know, educational research now that shows instead of like, you know, rote learning, if you tell kids a story with something to learn, they remember it better. Like, we're all about stories and
we're hardwired that way.
Yeah. And it's, you know, so it's important to look at all the stories, even the ones that are hard, but we can do it with empathy and kindness and not just be exploitive. And that's my, you know, that's my corner of the world in terms of true crime. But I just love it because it's complicated and I love complication.
Oh, that's wonderful. All right. Well, let's take a look at the second part of your reel so that we can now see what else that you have done and how we're going on that. So could we run that, Renee, please?
He quits his job and he keeps getting weirder and weirder and weirder. Even though he already has a weapon, he also found a gun that the Otis have. He had tied the silk scarves together in preparation.
And then Mr. Ota and Taggart arrived.
Just 2 months prior to his murder, they had remarried.
I'm gonna miss you.
I miss you too, babe. I love you.
Love you.
Mwah.
Thank you.
Christine, as it turns out, did have an alibi.
She was in 29 Palms visiting a friend.
Nowhere around when the murder occurs. In fact, she's 140 miles away.
However, the Highland Park Police Department discover that Christina, right after her second marriage to Marlon, applied for a life insurance policy on Marlon. And she stood to receive as much as $75,000 in insurance money.
$75,000 would be $500,000 now.
Around 5 a.m., a white van pulls up and an individual exits the house. At that time, we decided to stop the van. We removed all the individuals. He appeared to be very nervous. I asked him his name, and he told me it was Angel James. I knew he wasn't telling the truth. Again, I asked him his name. And at that time, he said, yeah, I'm Herbert Melton.
So you have many different directions that you can go. You have done so much in documentary, you've done so much in film. What impels you in the true crime genre right now to be able to direct? Because you have to choose, and you've chosen this, and this is something that you want to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I love the true crime genre for so many reasons. In addition to, it's usually some kind of, hybrid of interviews, which I think of as documentary and scripted segments. And I love the hybrid.
All the recreations that you were doing and how you're able to make them so compelling. So it is so you get them both.
We get them both. And like, as you know, I love documentary and I love scripted. So to get both in one project is always just absolutely delicious, so I love that. And I also wanted to point out in the reel, the story of Marlon and his wife.
Yes.
Marlon is the eventual murder victim, but I thought it was really important to show him as the loving husband and all of that. And I actually worked a lot with that actor, trying to, get those emotions on his face as we were like holding on him and that sort of thing, because, he loved her, and that was important. That was important to show.
And I want to point out that, so I want to stop right there, because this is a pet peeve of mine, because when I see couples who have affection, and it's obvious to know that they're just phoning it in. It's just a quick. Those two looked like, on that kiss that they have, it was a kiss of someone who had kissed a lot together. So how you work that out to be able to get them to do it so naturally, to have it to be a natural, I was really impressed by that.
Oh my goodness, thank you. Yeah, I basically was talking about the emotions that we wanted to see. And then I was like, think of something in your own life that matches up with that. Just it could be anything at all. I don't need to know, but I want it to be specific. I want you to be able to remember it and feel it and see it in your mind's eye. And then it'll work on camera. And I never knew what they were thinking, but honestly, it's none of my business. It was my business to try and get those. It was my business for the performance. So yes. my business was the performance. So,
right. So what would you like to do? How do you, at this particular time in your career, all right, you have this and you have this reel. What do you want to do? How are you looking at? Are you soliciting? Are you working? What are you doing? Tell me.
Yeah, I mean, basically my last project, as you know, recently dropped on Amazon. So since then, just, been looking for the next project. And, the true crime world is definitely where I'm looking as well. Oh my goodness. There's a show called Dr. Death, which is, I think is fantastic and so compelling. It's only been 2 seasons so far, but these stories are just unbelievable, and to help bring something like that to life would be fantastic. And another series called Dirty John, which I also love because, you know, it's so real of, you know, and that show in particular is about like in love relationships where one person isn't who they say they are, and you know how that goes. And I think there's just a little facet of every single one of us are just a little bit different than what we say we are. And to just explore, like, yeah, there's like very small differences, like, oh yeah, I get highlights a little bit more often than I admit. That's one thing. But, you know, pretending to be someone else that you're not, you know, is another. And so those are a couple of shows that I love. And there's also a show called See No Evil. But I mean, there's a ton of true crime now. And, you know, I'd like to take advantage of the kind of explosion of that genre and my interest in it.
Exactly. Well, because you and I have a vested interest in how women are being both portrayed and how women are getting into the executive and the executive producer and the studio. With this big anti-DEI push that we're seeing, are you seeing any backlash in this as far as within the industry? Are we able to avoid that and have a continued movement toward greater representation, both on behind the screen and on screen?
Well, a lot of the DEI programs that have been alive and well for a long time in our industry, you know, film and television, they've been axed. You know, people have been fired, you know, and I think it's a self-preservation measure, I suppose. Yep. You know, but the good thing is we don't need programs are great and programs are useful and, you know, all of that, but programs aren't the only way to do this. You know, each and every one of us can do it in our own world.
Absolutely.
Hire the right people, and the right people can be any gender.
Exactly. And being able to keep that open. And it's so important to me, because what we're getting an opportunity to do, I see a richness on the screen. I see a richness that we're seeing in this wonderful society, this wonderful multicultural, multiracial society, this wonderful soup that we have. This is what the richness comes about.
Absolutely. I mean, the way I look at it is, you know, we as humans win if everybody is able to work to the utmost of their ability. Because if, you know, the cure to cancer is in someone's brain who doesn't get all the opportunities and can't get to where they could get to in terms of curing cancer, we're all lesser for it. So it's just really about, you know, maximizing every one of us humans, you know, not just a subset, because we never know where, you know, the challenges of our day are going to be solved. Who's going to bring those solutions to the forefront? So, I mean, that's why I think the equal opportunity thing is so key. You know, we as a human race are not going to go as far as we can go to the best of our ability, unless everybody, what each person has inside of them has a, you know, a platform to, you know, maximize.
Absolutely. Have you seen AI begin to make its way in as a director and a producer? And how are you thinking about it? What kinds of inroads are being made, and what kinds of accommodations are you making?
I mean, I used AI for the first time on my last project, First to the Finish, a 6-part nonfiction series. It's on Amazon about the Mazda MX-5 Cup, 2024 Mazda MX-5 Cup through the lens of some very important women.
Right.
But we used it just to, because usually, you know, when an editorial, you need a certain line or two, and you'll get the next time you go out in the field. and usually just to help the storytelling, like the AE, the assistant editor, or myself or someone else will just, say those lines, and we put them into the cut, and, just to kind of help us shape the story.
You bet.
Never leaving them in there. And we used AI to actually say those same words, but through our talents' voices. So it's just less to bump on when you're watching cuts.
Yep.
But that's I think a good example of a great use of AI. Like, it wasn't replacing anybody. It wasn't taking anyone's job. And it was a good tool, because when you're, watching cuts and trying to get to story and that sort of thing, the less things you bump on, the better. So you can just focus on story. And if you're not bumping on a new voice coming in, saying something that's going to be replaced later, that's so much better. So
right.
That was my very first experience with AI, and it was good. It was positive, and didn't take away from any person, and helped process all along. So I think there's now I'm using AI. Not really. I don't want to put any of my work into Chat GPT or any AI things. I don't want my work that nobody else might know about to, feed the machine and get trained on. So I use it just for like general questions and research, with sources, of course, because you have to double check everything. So that's the only reason I don't find it as useful as it maybe could be, because just because it tells you something, it doesn't mean it's real. So,
It isn't, but if you wouldn't ask a 3-year-old and not double check what a 3-year-old says if the 3-year-old gives you something. That is where AI is right now. It's in its toddlerhood. It will even tell you. You can ask it, and you can say, where are you in this evolutionary scale? And it will say, we are in a very young stage. So it's going to be maturing, and it's going to need to mature in order for us to be able to use it. But that's just fine. I love it at the bottom of some of the AI. They'll say, check, not always accurate, check your sources. Well, I feel like that's what I'll have underneath my screen. Dennis is not always accurate, check your sources.
We all should have that plastered on our forehead, because it's also part of, what we are like.
Make sure.
Here's a funny thing that I didn't make this up. I read it somewhere and I can't remember where, but somebody was talking about the way to look at AI now is like treat the services as a really, really smart assistant who's really high most of the time. So they're wrong most of the time, but it's worth perhaps tapping into that assistant, because it can be so smart, but it's also stoned. So you got to check it out.
That is a great way to do it. Oh, and
that makes sense to me. Like that makes sense in my brain. I know how to deal with that kind of entity. So that's what I do.
Well, you are now officially the person who has been on my show, Recently Spontaneous Conversation, our show, the most times. So now all I'm asking you to do is to continue to expand that streak, so that when Nadine Jolson, the wonderful Nadine Jolson, has the opportunity to be able to have you on again, and I can contact you individually as you have things come up. I want you to be able to do that. Now, one thing I want to make sure that we do, when you want someone to find you, how are the best ways for them to do it?
It's actually really pretty easy. If you Google my name, my site comes up, my phone number's there. I'm easy to find. But I also have an amazing agent named a nonfiction agent named Scott Kaufman at Buchwald. So reaching out to Buchwald finds me easily. And I also have a lovely manager, Gavin Lurie, with Zero Gravity. So, reaching out to anyone on my team, and Nadine Jolson, my wonderful publicist, as well. So all of Nadine and Scott and Gavin are my team. So definitely through them, but it's also pretty easy to find me directly.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Annetta. As usual, I have such a wonderful time. The time goes by so quickly. And I'm looking forward to continuing our conversations as we see how you ascend through this amazing time here in the middle of 2025 and whatever else is going to be unfolding.
I can't believe I'm the one who's been on your show the most. I feel honored and very excited about that. So that was news to me. So thank you. Clearly thrilled to be here and look forward to coming back.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for coming and joining Annetta and me on Reasonably Spontaneous Conversation. And we'll see everybody next time.